Welcome to Uxbridge Beat, the podcast where we feature the who's who of Uxbridge, Ontario. My name is Jennifer Naviu-Campsell.
And I'm Scott Campsell, and we are happy to be your hosts. Our town has several unique and interesting businesses, and Jennifer and I are always happy to find out more about food.
We are happy to introduce you to Lisa Hutchinson, owner of the specialty grocery store and fromagerie, The Passionate Cook's Essentials.
Let's find out what puts the beat in her passionate foodie heart.
Welcome to the Uxbridge Beat, Lisa. You're the owner of the Passionate Cook's Essentials.
That's right.
On Brock Street. And we want to know all about the shop, but we also want to know about you. So we'll get to the shop in a second. So let's highlight you. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got to Uxbridge and what your background is.
You're going to laugh at how I got to Uxbridge. I worked at Bell for 30 years, and this is my phase 2. So wanted to do something that I really loved. Didn't want to go back to telecom. So food. I love to cook. I love to travel. I mean, every time we travel, it's just to eat. So we see what's going on in that country, but we certainly eat all the food. But I actually Googled what is north of Pickering, because we lived right downtown Toronto, and we knew we wanted to leave and move closer to our cottage, which is northeast of Peterborough. And I didn't want to go out east, Pickering, Ajax, Oshawa. So I thought, well, north would be great, but I had no idea. I've never heard of Uxbridge, never been up this way. And we drove through, stopped at the tin mill, met Don, fell in love with Don, fell in love with the tin mill, and thought we could live here. Mm-hmm. And I went through about 50 houses, found the house of our dreams, and then found a business.
What year was that?
It's 12 years ago, so 2009.
Okay, so still relatively
Oh, yeah, I still
young.
think I'm new. Yeah.
Huh. Neat. It's funny because my dad, so where Presence is and the Tin Cup now, my dad used to own that building.
Oh.
And we lived in Scarborough, and he sold his music store. And part of the caveat with the store who purchased ours paying him off over a 4-year time period was that dad wasn't allowed to open another music store within a certain distance. So your story actually mirrors my dad's story, because he did real estate for a little while. He was doing other stuff. And he was like, I really miss retail music. I'm just going to start driving. And he discovered Uxbridge, just like you. And it was just outside of that limitation, that circumference of what he wasn't allowed to reopen a competing store. It's like, yeah, okay. Bought the building, started another store, all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of neat. It's the same little story.
Well, and people laugh, like, why would you think of Uxbridge? And I thought, being downtown Toronto for all those years, I want to be able to get back there quickly. So I want it to be 30 minutes away sort of thing. So it's a little bit longer, but I love it. I love Uxbridge. I love the people.
Do you own the building on Brock Street?
I did for years, and I sold, and it was the very perfect time to sell because we needed a boiler, a roof. So it just worked out really well. We had a partner that bought the building with me, and then she decided to retire. They ended up splitting up, and so I took over the building ourselves and then decided to sell it, which was a great idea. Was
it a caveat that you had to remain as a tenant?
No, I wanted to remain.
No, that's what I mean.
He didn't mind at all. Like he said he could find a new tenant if I wanted to leave. And I said no and wanted like a long lease.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it is great. So, and I had the other side as well, which was the bistro.
Just gonna get into that,
but now I've rented that out because since the pandemic, that was the perfect time for me to fold.
And what a shame. That was one of our favorite restaurants in town. We just loved it.
Was that pure pandemic that's why you wanted to close?
That was the only reason. I wanted to continue doing maybe takeout, but the chef and the sous chef that were there, they really wanted to stay fine dining, and they did not think that you could do fine dining and takeout. And so, we were closed for a while, and then I just thought, you know what, I'm done. 3 years, it's a lot of work running the store and running the bistro, and it worked out for the best for me. Mm-hmm. But I do hear every day people miss the bistro. It was a great experience.
I think there was a beef something that I can't even remember. It was a steak, but it wasn't steak, but it was some sort of a
It wasn't a short rib, was it?
No, I can't remember. I don't know. I just remember it was like the yummiest thing.
I don't know. I just went in because you change the menu regularly.
Yeah,
right?
all the time.
So every time you go in, you go, oh, she changed the menu. You'd be disappointed. And then you'd order something else off the menu. And oh, I'm so glad she changed the menu. Yeah, that's what it was.
That's a really tough thing, changing the menu, because people get really excited about having their favorites and depending on their favorites. But then other people think, we live in this town. We're here all the time. Could you change the menu?
And so as the owner, and you're not the chef or the sous chef,
right?
Is that correct?
That's right.
So are you in charge of that menu?
Well, so when we opened, I was in charge of that menu
Yeah.
and it was very French, and that's why it was called a bistro. As the chef and the sous chef started to get the hang of things and actually run a restaurant because they had worked for other people before, they did not want to stick with the same things. Like they didn't want to do crepes. Whereas I thought crepes were a great idea. They love to do nose to tail, which I think is wonderful. They wanted to do everything local. So I have to give them that. And the food was amazing. Mm-hmm. So, I had a few sticklers that they had to keep French onion soup on my menu. They had to do a beef. They had to do a chicken. They had to do a fish. Other than that, they had creative control.
So do you have a background in cooking? Like, do you have an educated background in culinary arts?
I've done a ton of cooking classes, and I've been to the Cordon Bleu for the French certificate.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was great. And I did that when I left Bell and I had time. So I did a lot of classes. I've just always been interested in food. I've always cooked. Then we did the cooking classes, and they lasted 12 years, and they'll come back because people love them.
I think I need them.
So
but we'll get
I'm
to
not
that.
saying that. I'm not saying anything. Nothing about that. There's the no touch zones and there's the no fly zones, and that's definitely So you decided you're just going to go into another business. Why food?
Well, because I do feel like an expert in food. I mean, they say if you read 8 books on a certain topic in 1 year, you can be an expert in that subject. And it's just that's what really drives me, is discovering every ethnicity, traveling, eating everything, finding out every street food. And so to me, what did I think I'd be really good at? It would be running a kitchen store where I knew all about al clad, all about the Shun knives, I research everything, and it's a passion.
How do you find your suppliers?
Well, you find your product and then you find out who supplies. A lot of times it's driven by my own personal interest. So I have celiac disease. I can't eat anything with gluten, just diagnosed 5 years ago. So everything in my store has changed. And a lot of the bistro things had changed too, because I have to taste things. So we learned how to cook differently, but then I started finding suppliers based on what I wanted to eat. And then I found out there's a whole world of people that are looking for gluten-free destinations.
Especially in Uxbridge. So
I can't believe it.
Frankie's used to be the go-to place for all the celiac-free things. They're totally out of business now, is that right?
No, they're online. You can still buy everything online. And I think the Fig has a lot of their products.
That's great. But I had no idea that you provided that too. So you learn something new every day, right?
Well, we have a great flour and we make all our own pastries, and people buy those regardless of whether or not they know they're gluten-free. Okay. They're delicious. Yeah. You wouldn't know the difference. Yeah. And so here we have this big pastry cabinet. A lot of our prepared meals, nobody really understands that they're gluten-free. If you're not a celiac person, you're buying them, you're eating them, you're loving them.
Yeah.
If you're celiac, you're jumping for joy.
She says it so much nicer. She says celiac.
Yeah.
We call them glutards.
I know. And you know what? I swear.
It's not very nice.
No, but God is getting me, because when I did those years of cooking classes, I would say, and we're gluten full and we love butter and we're not doing low fat this and low cal that, and just a lightning bolt strikes me with celiac disease. I traveled to France how many times to eat pastries, and now I can't eat anything with gluten? Wrong. Just wrong.
To be fair, though, we don't call them glutards because we're trying to be mean. It was actually a person with celiac that told us that was the name. I'm a glutard.
I'm a glutard. Okay, good. Yeah, it's not like we trademarked that really rude.
In fact, we've used it for other things like lactards.
Everybody uses those. Yeah.
Okay, good.
True story. No, true story.
Sorry. So, products. Can you sell alcohol?
I do sell alcohol. I have an amazing wine collection.
And I knew that, but how does that work if you're not an LCBO, for example?
Well, that just changed. It just changed with the pandemic. Okay. So what happened was the restaurants had to be closed. They had all this wine. And so now what are we going to do? Mm-hmm. So it was the Alcohol and Gaming Commission that said, okay, well, if you sell food, you can sell alcohol. Okay. So you have to you can't just walk in and buy a bottle of wine. You can buy a truffle and a bottle of wine, but you have to sell food. And 9 times out of 10 in my business, they're buying a prepared meal, beef bourguignon, an ace baguette, and they're buying a bottle of wine. And probably a hunk of cheese. And that's a perfect dinner. Just saying.
Everybody get that? Type that down.
Yeah, that's right.
What's a perfect dinner?
Well, you and I are both teachers, and we get lots and lots of gifts, like especially Christmas gifts. So if anybody's listening who might be our students, if you want to know what exactly
We give gifts.
You do give great gifts.
We do. Well, that's because they're from you. Our executive for Okami Kai gets all gifts.
They do.
baskets,
So for the past 2 years, we've spent a nice pretty penny with you for Christmas, and we give all of our high-ranking teachers and students gift baskets from you. And they get so excited. In fact, we have one couple, Liz and Jonathan, who are regulars with you. You know them obviously
absolutely.
very, very well. And they said they were so excited. It took them forever to unpack all of the goodies in there. And then last year, you and I said, hey, you know what? Everybody's talking about how awesome these are. And we don't have one.
Yeah, so we're thinking next year we're buying our own gift basket.
But we were driving them around this year to drop them off, and we were like, oh, we forgot again to buy our own. So we have to do that next year.
We'll make our own gift basket.
We'll make our own.
I don't even know why we need to do it for Christmas. We should just do that regularly.
We should just do it.
But I love to curate those baskets.
Yeah.
So if I know you and I know, I'll ask you a few things about the people.
Yeah.
Like when we talked about your foodie friend, really gourmet, I had a blast walking around. Like, he's going to love this. He's going to have to research what to do with this. I think I gave him birch syrup. And I can just picture this man going, birch syrup. I can put this on salmon. What can I do with this?
What I like was when we go in, we've got our staples. So we say, okay, we're going to get this type of cheese.
Definitely.
We're going to get the chutney. We know, but when we were able to look in a basket, she sells that and too. And you can sort of put that stuff together as opposed to walking around the store and just sort of window shopping or
browsing.
Yes. That's the word. Yeah. Thank you.
So pairing for things like with wine and with beer, how do you go about that? Just trial and error?
No. So we've done, first of all, when I had a fromagère working for me, we did descriptors for every single cheese. And on every single descriptor, we say what pairs with what. And we did the tasting. So we would taste a beer and we would taste the cheese, and you would taste that sweet spot of a perfect harmony versus having a really heavy red wine like a Barolo and your Dauphinois. Yeah. That would just, it would just be too sticky and it would overpower the poor little cheese. So you have to really like Dauphinois and champagne. I mean, that would just, those bubbles would just be fantastic, cutting through all the fat.
I've just, every time I have the poor little cheese.
Yeah.
That's it.
We don't want to do that to the poor little cheese.
No, every time we're having a Dauphinois now, it's like, it's a little cheese. Look at it. It's so cute.
So stuff like charcuterie boards have become really super trendy over the past decade, maybe even, let's say, even 5 years, like just exploded. And I know my daughter, who's almost 22 now, she's just so excited about charcuterie board. Mom, can I just come home this weekend, have a charcuterie board, drink some wine with you and just hang out? I'm like, yeah. So the last time she was home, we said, okay, you got to try this Dauphinois and the chutney. Mom, Scott, this is like crack. She was just so excited about that.
It has taken the world by storm, though. Like, you think we used to do cheese and crackers.
Yeah.
Put out kielbasa. Yeah. And now it's just unbelievable. People will forgo their dinner. That's dinner.
Yeah.
It's just grazing.
Yeah. So now you have some competition.
We do.
Yes. So how do you deal with that in terms of that competition? Do you still have that edge because you have more, for lack of a better word, fancy stuff?
Oh, I love that question. I think it comes down to cheese knowledge. It's very similar to all the products that we carry as well. There's competition in everything, and that's healthy, and it makes you do better. But with cheese, you have to have knowledge to sell cheese. You have to be able to maintain that cheese. So when I first started in the business, I had a little cheese fridge and I thought, well, I'll just bring some cheese in. Well, it went off, went bad, went moldy, couldn't sell it. Like,
now
I just didn't know.
Isn't that more expensive?
Yeah, that's right. I just market it differently. But in all honesty, you have to know your cheese and you have to know its pairings, and you serve it a different way. What the other people might be doing is just making a beautiful box that you can enjoy with your husband, your family, your kids, because sometimes there's gummies in there. Sometimes there's desserts in there. Yeah. Sometimes there's macarons. We really just stick to the cheese and what goes with cheese, which would be dried fruit and nuts, different types of charcuterie. So really nice meats, artisan meats, not something from the grocery store.
Right.
Most of our stuff is artisan. All of our meats are sulfite free, and it's made nose to tail and small batch. So you're not going to see it in a supermarket. So it's just quality, I think.
Can you learn off your competition though? Is there somebody maybe that goes and does something and you go, well, that's a good idea. We could do that too, or we could do it better?
For sure. As a matter of fact, the box is a great idea. So we used to do boards. So people would bring their board in, or we would do a flat board. And so people bring their board, we dress it all up, we make it beautiful, we cover it really well, and then they would take it and just put it on their table. But what I've noticed with the boxes is that a lot of people don't have their board, or we were giving them boards that were maybe $6 or $7, and they were just like a cutting board. And what do you do with that afterwards? So these sort of disposable but beautifully looking boards with a nice clear lid, that was a great idea. So I didn't know that before.
No, that's neat. But now I know we have a beautiful board a live edge board that your parents gave us for Christmas last year. I'm going to bring it in.
And we'll also put it all together for you. So not just the cheese and the meat and whatever, but we would gussy it all up. I'm sure there's a better word than gussy.
No, that's a good word.
No, that's
Too zhuzh.
This is like pushing my vocabulary and the way I'm going to phrase things, like cute little cheese and gussy.
Poor little cheese.
Poor little cheese, right?
Poor little cheese. So when I think of cheese, I think of France. And I've been in France a couple of times singing, and there's nothing better than you just go to the store and you get a $4 bottle of wine and you get your cheese and your meat and your baguette and your tomato, and that's your meal for the day in the park. And maybe that's because I was 22 years old and I was poor, but still, that's like, to me, and the cheese that you're having isn't just Velveeta, and it's not just,
it's some little tiny goat cheese that's wrapped in a little piece. Yes. And it's wrapped in a walnut leaf.
Yes.
And then also, they're all sitting on top of the cheese fridge, because they're selling it at room temperature, which is how it's supposed to be served, because they don't have the same laws that we do, where everything has to be cold and a certain temperature.
So then for product supplying, I'm going to hazard a guess that a lot of yours is offshore, like from France and from Germany and Switzerland.
But a lot of from Canada.
So talk to us about local Ontario products. Do we have a lot going on? Do we not have a lot going on?
We have a lot of Ontario cheese. We also have a lot of Canadian cheese.
Okay.
Just down the road in Lindsay is probably one of my favorite cheeses, Lindsay cloth bound cheddar. And it's a goat cheddar. It's won tons of gold awards all over the world. He also does a beautiful sheep cheddar. And these are great for people that can't have cow's milk. So they can eat those and not have a problem with digestion. But we also have beautiful Quebec cheeses that are unpasteurized, which means that it's unpasteurized, but it's been aged for 6 months. So they can still sell unpasteurized, because you've probably heard we have to pasteurize our cheese. Quebec doesn't have to, but they do have to age it.
And that's just for safety reasons?
Safety reasons, yeah.
So when you think about those large cheese wheels that kind of just are there, is that viable cheese?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the general shelf life for cheese?
It depends on, you're going from fresh to aged. Some of the cheeses we bring in are 10-year-old cheddars. So it depends on how well wrapped it is, how maintained it is once it's cut. So that's what I mean when I say you have to know what you're doing with cheese, because if it comes to a certain temperature, then it's gone off and it can be harmful. So you really want to make sure you know what you're doing with cheese when you're buying your cheese from a reputable place.
How do you educate your employees for?
I was really fortunate. I had a fromagère, Cecilia Smith from town here.
Yep, I know Cecilia.
Yeah, so she worked with me for 10 years. So I learned everything I could possibly learn from her. And then I trained my people. And we have lots of information pamphlets and lots of books that they can take home.
So another avenue of your business is cookware and knives and things like that. So we referred to it earlier that I should come to one of your cooking classes. I'm a very middle of the road, every night, what do you call it? Like just
order good food. That's what we. That's very good.
You just called me out. Okay, but that's shut up. Okay, so yeah, we do the good food thing, but I'm also a good comfort food kind of chef in that regard, but I am certainly no fancy dancy chef in it, and nor do I necessarily have an interest.
Right.
Number one, why should I have an interest? And what would change if I were to sort of get into that stuff? And then the second thing is, why should I have better cookware?
Okay, 2 questions there. So the first one, our cooking classes are amazing because you learn how to do meals in 30 minutes and how to do things that are so delicious using new flavors, new spices, everything on a sheet pan. I mean, I must have done that class 5 times to the things you can do on one sheet pan. That's an entire meal and elevates the flavor of everything. I can't say enough about that. But I think that introducing spices and herbs, it's really important. It really changes what you do on a day-to-day basis. Just adding basil to things or adding any type of parsley or dill or thyme, just such great flavors.
We were in Greece and oregano is in everything.
Do you know I buy that oregano from Greece? I have a customer that I get it from, but it's the dried. And you can buy it in grocery stores. And I tell everybody, do not buy your oregano in a jar. Get the one that you squish the plastic bag and you are transported back to Greece.
Okay.
It's just amazing.
Asian food seems to be bigger now. Are you bringing in, or do you have anything?
Lots of it.
Yeah.
We've got lots of Korean, the bulgogi, and lots of the different gochujang, like the flavors, the spices, the sweet and sour. Yeah, we have lots of that. And we do cooking classes on that as well.
Hey, Amanda, your kids have grown so much.
Hi, Katie. Yeah, they're bigger now. Yours too. They seem to be doing well.
Honestly, the lockdowns and isolation have been really rough on us, but I got them into karate at Okami Kai, and it has made such a positive difference for them.
Really? Our family needs something so badly right now. They need to be moving and motivated.
Okami Kai Martial Arts and Fitness, striving to bring out the best in the community since 1999.
Look them up. The teachers are great, and the program is welcoming for all ages.
Okami Kai Martial Arts and Fitness.
So then with the cookware, for example, why do I need better cookware rather than the stuff I have from wherever I have it from?
So I'll say 2 things here. I learned to cook not having fabulous cookware, and I'm a good cook. And I say that because I learned from all the people that I used to work with, Italians and Yugoslavian and Greeks, and they didn't have big expensive things and they made the most flavorful food. But what they taught me is how to actually cook. They wouldn't maybe make a bone-in skin-on chicken breast. So if you're going to just use an everyday, skillet for your bone-in skin-on chicken breast, it's probably going to stick. So when you think of good cookware, you want a really good non-stick pan. So nothing cheap that's going to, the coating's going to come off. You don't want that. You don't want anything that's going to have any chemicals in it. So you want to invest in a good non-stick. So that egg just slides around that pan without butter, without oil. It's something you need in your house.
What is it that makes it non-stick?
It's the coating.
Okay.
So we carry, so it's a coating, but it's baked right in, and it's like a titanium, and it's fantastic. When you look at other cookware like All-Clad, I mean, it just, the heat, I'm trying to think of the word, conductivity?
Conductor?
Yeah, the heat, the way it conducts heat.
Yeah.
So it's 5 layers and it's aluminum, but it's all clad in stainless steel. So it has a really good base on the bottom. Nothing sticks going up the side. I don't know if you've ever fried anything in a pan and you see the sort of a rim that goes around the edge and it's all kind of sticky.
Yeah, I see that probably pretty regularly.
But okay, so let's all get excited about cookware now. We're gonna go shopping for. Are we like looking at a gigantic investment for these kind of pans, or?
Well, I always say don't buy a set. I always say buy like a pan that can do a lot of things, and so yes, that would be a $200 to $300 investment.
One pan.
What's the quality on that? Like it's going to last a while?
Forever, and has a warranty forever.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's an heirloom. That's pass it down to your kids quality.
I have my mother's, Le Creuset. So yeah, that's something that I'm making a lamb stew in tonight. They never go out of fashion and they never break down.
What about knives? There's a beautiful set the last time I was in that you had, and it's so fancy. It's behind glass.
Japanese, aren't they?
They're Japanese, and they're beautiful, and they look like they're all
on the blade.
They're all hand beveled and everything.
Gorgeous.
So talk to us about knives.
So we have the Eastern knives and the Western knives, and Western meaning that we've got Henkels and Wusthoffs, and they're made in Germany, Switzerland, and workhorse of the kitchen and really great. Then the Japanese knives, and they are insanely sharp and they're beautiful. The craftsmanship is definitely there. And it depends on what type of food you're cutting. It depends on what kind of knife you like. So I often joke about there's really no need for samurais anymore, but I'm looking at you and thinking this. So all these factories have made knives now, right?
Yeah.
So the global knives, the Shun knives, and they're beautiful. So if I was going to take a bone out of a chicken, I would use like a Victorinox workhorse. It's a great flexible knife. It's not going to cost a lot of money. When I want to carve a beautiful roast, I'll go to my Shun, and it's just gorgeous and cuts so perfectly through something that large. But there's a different knife for everything that you want. Again, I don't recommend you have a set.
that's all learning.
Yeah. And it's the size of your hand, and it's what you like. If you like that fibrox that you can grab onto it and you can hack through something, or if you like a very slender knife like a global and it's stainless steel with all those little dots, it's lovely. I think of a lot of women like that knife because it's tiny and it fits in their hand nicely. The Shun, the men love the Shun. They're sexy knives.
Okay, so what? Now I got to know.
Again, Lisa.
What's
Sexy knives.
poor little cheese through sexy knife? Yeah. Do you know the history of that company? Like, were they sword makers before or something? Because like I've seen the blades, and the blades look very similar to like.
I don't know a lot about the Shun company other than the knives and how they work and the different shafts that they have. But I do know the Japanese knives did come from the fact that we have all these knife masters and creative individuals in Japan, and there's no use for those swords anymore. In all honesty,
for cooking anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and we've experienced that too when you had to bring home swords from Japan. I wonder if there's a similar thing where, our stuff gets stuck at customs because they're live blade swords.
You think?
Yeah. Does your stuff get stuck at customs too?
I think it's a little bit different. Obviously, a huge sword than a little utensil knife. But no, it's not a problem. I mean, it shouldn't send it directly to us, and it goes through customs.
Shipping's different than trying to bring it on an airplane, I would imagine, too.
So.
That causes a little grief. But
have you used one of your swords to saber the champagne?
We did not one of our swords. No, but we were at a wine tasting. Where were we at? Trees?
Niagara. I think it was Trees.
Trees in Niagara. And they did that. That's their little,
the showstopper.
Their showstopper thing that they do. But we haven't actually.
It's not a Japanese thing it's more a French thing to do champagne.
Yeah. One thing I can do is with a metal spatula, I can knock off the beer can lid without wrecking it.
Well, aren't you clever?
Oh, I know.
A bear can lid? Or?
Sorry, not a beer can lid. A beer bottle. A beer bottle lid. You have to tap it.
There's a Scarborough girl.
Boom.
Yes, I'm a Scarborough too. So I've been known to open that with my dress.
Well, somebody was telling me that if you don't have a corkscrew, you can use a man's dress shoe.
All these people going into Passionate Cooks thinking, "Oh, she's so classy." She's like, and there she is talking about, "I'm opening beer bottles with my dress."
I'm from Scarborough.
So back to Brock Street. There are some really super cool businesses along there with you. Do you guys do a lot of connection work? Do you do a lot of things that, let's say, for example, you're going to come and do a cheese tasting over here, and then you're going to go get a book over there?
Yeah, we all work together.
Okay.
And it's fabulous. So if somebody comes in and they're looking for something and I don't have it, I know that Dina might have it at Presence. I might say, you'll find it at Lowe's because they're getting into more table decor. We constantly work with Shelley on events. We've brought in so many cooks. You would not believe it. At least 30 different cooks that have come in. They've written cookbooks. So we do the dinner and serve the dinner to everybody out of the cookbook. And then I interview the cook, and that's been a lot of fun. So yes, Shelley and I collaborate all the time. Alexa and I were just talking yesterday that we want to do a merchants night where we can all get together and talk about things that are important to us, like not a BIA situation, but just the local merchants about, who's selling what, and does it make sense that everybody sells the exact same thing? Just to really talk through the town and what do our customers want? What's sort of a destination? What can we do to help each other? Because it's nice to hear. I mean, Willa used to give me such great advice. And I think about her and Shelley as well from the bookstore. I mean, 12 years ago, they helped me huge. Whereas a lot of people, they don't like to share information.
What about other restaurants in town? Do you work with them?
Oh yeah, I love Nikki. I mean, I say Nikki because we don't have a ton of restaurants right now. Navarra's, I've talked to her a number of times with the pandemic. You know, what was she doing? Because she was putting on that little, the patio. Yeah. And then the new place that's on Main Street. I haven't been there yet, but I hear great things about Juergens. Yeah.
That's great. So the pandemic, how has that helped you? How has that?
It's really helped me. I will say it's very upsetting to lose the bistro. However, people needed to eat and they were really not able to, you don't realize how many people go out for dinner and how often or use takeout. You might have kids, you might be busy until the end of the day. You might not want to cook, you might not be a cook or like to cook. And so our prepared meals have just flown out. And then the charcuterie boards and then people learned to make bread. So they were buying everything. So then there was a shortage of yeast and I happened to have a ton of yeast. So, I mean, it was just, the packaging of yeast was hilarious. You could not get yeast in this town. So, I have a huge thing and we don't have the bistro anymore. So I'll just package it up and, but yeah, so it really was nice, for me that so many people helped me by buying our prepared meals and the charcuterie boards. And just, I think a lot of times people didn't want to go in the big box stores. So they really shopped local. And I think a lot of people that didn't even know about our stores in town because they were, commuting from downtown. So they'd stop en route.
Yeah.
They found the store and they continue to come.
So we referenced a little earlier about my, lack of culinary skills. And so Scott and I work nights and we're often not home till 9 or 10 at night. And so doing something like a Hello Fresh or a Good Food for Us has just become a staple in our house just because of the speed of it. Has companies like that made a dent in your business?
I really don't think so. My business has grown over the years.
Yeah.
So I can't see that it's made a dent. I think the people that shop in my store for our prepared foods, they want restaurant quality food and the price doesn't seem to be too much of an issue. They know everything's made on site. They know it's all really good ingredients. There's no filler. We're using Nielsen Massey vanilla at $35 a bottle for anything that we're making with sweets. We're not using an artificial vanilla. We're using real butter. So I think people that really care about food, they're the ones.
Your prepared food, so it's basically
dinner for two.
Yeah, and but it would be something I would reheat, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not like a Good Food or a Hello Fresh where you're actually cooking.
No, it's all cooked and you just thaw it and pop it in the oven.
Okay.
Oh, well, maybe we're making a change then.
We don't have to cook anything. Well, but to be honest, the prepared stuff, one of the things that you and I mentioned was we didn't think about cooking it like that. So there's also a little bit of a class just in itself is here's all these ingredients. Apart from the spices, that's the only thing where you and I have said, we could probably make that. Oh, but we don't have that spice.
But I think you addressed that earlier too, because you're talking about having an incredible Asian section now with all of these flavors and spices and things like that. So we could probably revisit those recipes and
that's what I was thinking.
Up for all the stuff.
Yeah.
What's next for you guys? Are you expanding? Are you growing? Are you changing?
Every year since I've started, we have added something to the business. I think the last 2 years we've just sort of tried to stay alive, but also expand. We've just put a new freezer in because our freezer foods are taking off. We're always looking for things like dim sum. So now we do gluten-free dim sum from Riz down in Toronto, and we've brought that in. We'll be bringing in the pastry shop, Le Marquis. They're coming and bringing all their pastries, which is great. Pizza Libretto actually reached out. They do pizzas and they do them frozen. So I'm always looking for different suppliers to bring things in for people in Uxbridge that don't really want to have to go downtown all the time.
One of the things that I like to ask people is, what's the worst thing, whatever, in your business? So for example, we interviewed a photographer and I wanted to know what was the worst thing that had happened to her on a photo shoot. What's your worst culinary disaster that comes to mind?
A culinary disaster.
Well, our business disaster.
Well, I'm just thinking that when I first got the store and I put up all my shelving, I had a gentleman do it all for me. And then I put all my products up. And we were standing at the front of the store. We had an open jet. We were just looking and all of the shelves broke and fell down. And so all our merchandise just shattered.
You watched it happen?
Watched it. Could have cried. Some things were fine, but fish sauce. If you know fish sauce.
Oh, it stinks.
It stinks. The building's 120 years old. So
Lisa.
The hardwood floor and fish sauce. It was
Lisa.
awful. It was
This was
awful.
before you even opened.
Before we even opened.
So all brand new stock, just started a business.
Just gonna open, and yeah.
Wow.
It just broke off. All the shelves just broke off. Like 3 big, couldn't believe
Wow.
it. Yeah.
That's heartbreaking.
It was
Yeah.
heartbreaking. The
You
shelves
could
have
have-
never moved in
we've
12
all-
years now.
I bet
They're in there forever.
And you hired somebody else.
We've only done a few episodes, so right now I got a feeling that's got to be the worst story of the worst thing. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Smell it.
Oh yeah, like pomegranate molasses and fish sauce and Dijon mustard
And glass.
yes,
Like, oh.
and
But just the
mopping that
emotion.
up.
You're all excited to start, and then
Yeah.
like, wow. Oh,
Yeah, that was a
Okay, you win.
tearful moment. And there was my.
Okay, let's get to the good
husband.
story. Is there a good story? What's the best story ever?
proudest
Or
moment
proudest
for
moment.
you as a business owner?
We did I think 6 episodes of Rogers TV.
Okay.
And it was filmed in the store, and it was cooking along with experts in the community. So it was Willow Wind talking about fresh meat and me cooking something with that fresh meat. And then it was Effin Happy Farms, Angela Nickel. She came in with just tons of veg, and we talked about the vegetables in her farm and how well she treats her animals. And then I cooked there. We had a winemaker come in. It was lovely. And it was so neat to hear everybody in Uxbridge had watched it and they had heard about it. It was lovely.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought and that really started or kicked off the cooking classes.
When do you think you might be bringing those back?
I don't know. In order for me to have 12 people sitting in close proximity,
Right.
because that's profitable,
Yeah.
having 6 people does not make sense.
And for them sitting, you're talking about that beautiful bar that you have. You lucked out on that, right?
I know.
Yeah. So that was there at Candelario
That
previously.
was already there.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff was there. I mean, first of all, the beautiful ceiling and the beams and all that type of thing. But yeah, that bar, I mean, that just cried out for cooking classes, because prior to that, I did them in my home. So I could get 8 people around sort of my little
island.
Yeah. But you don't want to do things like that in your home.
Cooking class is always packed.
Always sold out.
Okay. Well, we'd like to pre-reserve a spot for when you're back to it.
And we do private ones too. So if you had a group of
I
people.
didn't know that. Okay.
Yep. We have a group of people, and then we've also come to your home, but most people like to
The private ones would be good, because then nobody sees my tears when I wreck it all.
I think that's a really neat idea. I didn't know you did that. That's cool.
So we're going to do a rapid fire.
Okay.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Rolling Stones.
If there was only one wine that you were allowed now to drink for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Tignanillo from Italy. And I've had it just a few times in my life. It's an expensive wine. It is a beautiful wine. It's like velvet. It's just a beautiful, beautiful wine.
Is that I don't know it. Is
Yep.
it red or a white?
It's red.
It's red.
Yeah.
What's it pair with?
Oh, me. It goes well with me.
Anywhere it goes, I go.
That's right. That's right.
If there was only one cheese that you had to eat for the rest of your life, what would it
Roquefort.
be?
Roquefort. Yep. The blue cheese. I just adore it.
And if there was any cheese that you could just kind of turn your back on, what would it be?
I'm not a huge Gouda fan. I'll eat it, but there's so many cheeses out there.
Don't spend your time with stuff you don't like, right?
Yeah. And there's a million different kinds of Gouda. So, having said that, I would say mild Gouda.
Okay. Who's your biggest culinary influence?
Well, I loved Julia Childs. And I think that's how I used to read her cookbooks for years and years. My mom was a cook, so liked to cook. And so Julie was always in our house in terms of cookbooks, not her. But Otto Lengi is an amazing cook, and he's in London, has a lot of restaurants and probably 8 cookbooks. And he has really changed the way I cook. So Julie was great for fundamentals. Mm-hmm. And then Otto Lengi came in and added a whole world of spice and flavor and just excitingness in food. But your ingredient list goes from 5 with Julia to 25 with Otto Lengi. So
a little more work, a little more preparation.
Yeah, he does have a simple cookbook. He calls it simple, and it's great. But it really introduces people to mixing and matching flavors.
What was your favorite meal that your mom made for you growing up?
Roast chicken.
And what was your least favorite?
Oh, God, that boiled dinner with cabbage and... Oh, I could smell it coming in from school and would cry. Like, who eats all those things boiled in one pot? Just, do you know
As long
that
as it's a
dinner?
$300 pot, though.
The East Coast do too, and I'm gonna hear a lot of people getting mad at me, but oh, my hard-boiled cabbage and corned beef and that cottage roll. Do you remember those things?
My mom was not a good cook at all, and maybe I come by it honestly that I didn't have a very good mentor. So no, I'm not familiar with those things.
You're very. Did you?
Maybe I'm lucky.
I would a cottage roll at the Legion meat roll.
But we had that.
Yeah.
That wasn't so bad.
That was all right.
Yeah, did you boil it with cabbage, carrots, in a pot?
We did a crock pot.
See?
Yeah,
we did do the crock pot.
There you go. Totally different.
Okay.
Yeah, we Googled what we were supposed to do with that, I think.
No, I talked to George Steele. He tipped me off. So what do you do with it?
Who's your biggest entrepreneurial influence?
My biggest entrepreneurial influence. Well, you know what? I'd have to say Ottolenghi. You know, they always say not to expand too quickly. And he's a chef, but I just can't believe what that man has done in his empire. So not only is he writing cookbooks and columns for The Guardian and columns all over the world, but he's made beautiful restaurants and like so many of them and expanding. And I mean, that's so much hard work. And you have partners and you have chefs, but he is still the person that's running that empire.
So lots of fancy food in your life, but I want to know what your guilty pleasure is for just pure junk food.
Oh God, I love junk food. I love it. Because I'm celiac, I can't eat out a lot at junk food restaurants where I would get hamburgers and fries and do all that type of thing. So I have to make that stuff at home. So my guilty pleasure was Swiss Chalet. It was my favorite. I could have eaten it 3 times a week. Love it. But now I have to make it at home. So I buy the package. I roast the chicken. My husband makes the fries, and that's my guilty pleasure.
What about potato chips and dip?
Oh yeah, definitely. Love my French onion dip. Love cheesies and wine. White wine. White wine goes with cheesies.
With cheesy.
Yeah, that goes. Yeah.
I haven't had this before. Yeah. Our dog really likes cheesies and I really like white wine. So we're going to make that happen. Okay. So your two.
I got more than a couple now. Your favorite word?
Fabulous.
Your least favorite word?
Use. Like use guys. And I know that's not how you say it.
Okay.
It's not how you say it, but I just hate that.
Okay. You may have answered this already, but if you could speak with anyone who's alive today, who would it be?
Wow. Who would I want to
You could have
speak
dinner
to?
with anyone alive today.
I think Michael Bonaccini.
Why?
So he's a food guy, and I've just always thought he was amazing. He is a great cook. Again, an entrepreneur, a lot of restaurants. I've seen him at cooking classes, and he's just fabulous. Love to talk to him about how he got his start.
Anyone who's passed away now, if you could talk to anyone.
Oh, Julia.
Yeah.
Definitely Julia.
If God exists and you go to heaven, what would you want God to say?
Oh, I think that I helped people. That I did something for people.
That I think honestly, that's probably the best way to end it. Thank you very much for helping us do this today. That was perfect.
I can't wait to come in and get some beef bourguignon now.
Get out! You're gonna go get wine and cheesies. That's what you're doing.
She doesn't sell cheesies.
No, I don't. I sell potato chips, though. Truffle ones, but still.
Very good. Thank you
so much.
Thanks.
So what do you say? You want to buy a $300 frying pan?
Is that what you're buying me for my birthday? Are you hinting something?
No, I am not buying you a $300 frying pan for your birthday.
Okay, so maybe that's like the family gift. So sometimes at Christmas, you and we buy stuff that we need, not stuff for each other. So maybe we need the $300 frying pan as opposed to I need.
I got to be honest, I felt pretty bad actually when I just said, I'm not buying you the $300 frying pan. It was almost like, I'm not buying you something that's $300, but that's not what I meant. I don't.
Maybe our listeners don't know that, but I know that. It's okay, honey. It's okay.
Yeah, I'll buy something that's $300, but I'm not buying you a pan.
Will you buy me $300 worth of our favorite poor little cheese, the Dauphinois?
Yes, but then you'd have to share.
Absolutely. With chutney and crackers, we're sharing.
So, okay, I want to get the knives. I want to get the frying pan. This is like the Christmas wish book.
We should get a red pen and circle all the things we want. Okay, Lisa, we want a really good pan. We want the knives. We want the cheese. Okay, how about we just end the podcast now and head over and go shopping?
Sounds good. I like that idea. What else we got on tap?
Melissa Pateris is next, and this next one after Melissa's, I'm so excited about this. This is our gym buddy, Bob Rufo.
Yeah, and what an amazing interview that was.
I think we just need to leave that as a teaser. This guy is so inspirational. We're going to tell you more about him on the next podcast, but stay tuned because you're going to be very excited.
Again, we've got a Facebook page. It's just a small group page, but if you want to contact us, you can. Also, let us know how we're doing because we're sort of flying blind here. One of the weird things about doing a podcast is you never really get feedback from people unless they decide to comment or communicate. So let us know how we're doing, and I guess we'll see you next time. Thanks very much. This has been a Capsule Broadcasting production. We have the essentials to cook up some passion for your next audio project.